Welcome back, everyone. This is Mr. Brain, your friendly neighborhood gaming dad, here with another video. And I know it's been a while since I've made a video, so I apologize. Going from streaming a couple hours once or twice a week to streaming, I believe, 5 nights in a row, almost 3 hours a night, was a big change for me, and I kind of needed a break from things. So I'm back. We have a potential update for the future, and they've given us a couple of bits of information about it, so let's get into it together, shall we? First off, it's 2 days ago. You probably have formed your own opinions on it. This is just to give my own. Since the launch of the new immigration decree, we've been listening to your questions and feedback regarding the event. We plan to keep optimizing the game in future versions based on your feedback to enhance your gaming experience. Blah 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 blah. Removal of the restriction on the use of heroes based on Federation history. Do I like that this will unlock Robert and a couple other heroes that I'm desperate to have back on my team? Absolutely. Do I think this is a good idea? No. Not in the slightest. There are people that have moved from single-digit regions all the way down into the 200s. Giving them access to heroes that are vastly better than anything the new players have access to is, in my opinion, the wrong course of action. I believe the correct course of action for this case would have been to section off the regions based off of what heroes they can use when it comes to what they can go up against in events. For example, if there's regions we're currently against in Darkseal that have access to Bianca and Eddie and Robert, like, they can use them. They may not have them because the top commander for them hasn't come up yet, but they can use them if they've come from a different region that has them. And heroes like that are better than heroes that came before them, for the most part. There's a couple of exceptions to that rule. But in my opinion, giving everyone access to every hero when there are regions that can't use them because they don't have them is not the correct choice of action here. I think this is going to create a bigger rift between the immigrated players and the native players that already exists within the system, especially since they haven't locked the immigration yet. So I just think this is going to exacerbate problems that already exist within the game. Adjusted ways to acquire heroes. The top commander, Lucky Roulette, and Great Hunter events will allow commanders to choose specific hero fragments from the heroes event's hero list as rewards. Certain heroes that have the same tag will be featured at any given time. The tag that is featured will rotate in this order: Range Squad, Rider Squad, Infantry Squad. Each tag will run twice before rotating to the next tag. I'm going to read all of this before I get on anything else. In the same season of an event, hero tag will be consistent across all regions, except for the first time the event runs in new regions. The following heroes will be included in the rotation. Methods of obtaining these heroes will remain unchanged. Ranged gets John Kerry, Jacob, Chun, and Julia. Rider heroes get Sven Schaefer, like there's another Sven, Jonathan, Bella, and Elena. And infantry heroes get Thunder, Eddie, Adut, and Robert. This both attempts to solve the problem that I mentioned up here, but creates an entirely new problem. The immigrated players don't have a reason to push that hard in Top Commander because they already have those heroes in a lot of cases. Now, I know there are some that they don't, like Thunder. So many people are still backtracking to get Thunder. It's ridiculous. So this will prevent additional moving to other regions in order to get these heroes, because you'll always have access to them on I believe it is a 2, 4, 6, 8, a 12-week basis, assuming they still have, maybe 18-week basis, depending on how many sets they'll do at a time. Each tag will run twice before rotating to the next tag. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Every 12 weeks. So you'll get 2 range sets, 2 rider sets, 2 infantry sets. The problem this will cause is that everyone will be pushing for top commander almost all the time. Top spenders may have all of their heroes awakened, and kudos to them, but moderate spenders, most of your alliances aren't going to have that. So they're going to want to run every single top commander every single time. And most free-to-play players now no longer have a chance at a top commander, when before they could hope that the immigrated players already had these heroes and weren't going to try and push for them as hard as they could have. Now everyone's pushing all the time because, oh, I've awakened Chun, but I don't have anything on Jacob yet. So I'm going to push this ranged one for Jacob, when before they would have to wait for Jacob's top commander in order to get him. I hope that makes sense. I just don't think, like I said, it tries to address this problem by making sure everyone has access to these heroes, but it creates the problem of everyone going for top commander every single time, completely locking out free players from being able to get to it. Police station. Maxine, Martin, Hank, Lee, and Peter will be the initial heroes available in the police station. Kind of already mostly a thing. Cynthia, Raigoro, Tom, and Nakano will be added to police station search rewards as commanders progress in the game. Don't like this. Raigoro should be a beginner hero. Considering you don't get great access to a solid garrison commander early on in the game, especially if you're taking it out of the police search, is going to present a problem for newer players when they're trying to defend even their own shelters from attack. And epic heroes don't do it. Raigoro at least gives you some form of damage mitigation, even though he's not the greatest at it. So locking him out of the police station until a certain point, I don't think is a good choice. Tom, I understand. That early on, he is a great infantry commander all around, great in garrison, so you can get him later and be fine. But I think Raigoro is the better choice for beginners, just for that damage mitigation versus trying to control heals. Heroes available in the police station may vary depending on each commander's game progress. Please check in-game for the heroes available to you. Okay. Daily boost. Lewis will be the initial hero for the daily boost, when originally it was Cynthia. So Cynthia will be available in the police station now. The remaining, well, she was before, but including Lee, the remaining heroes, including Lee, Bella, Adut, Chun, Elena, Robert, and Julia, will be added to the daily boost as commanders progress in the game. All of these are roulette heroes. So during Sven's top commander, Bella was the roulette hero. During Thunder's, Adut. During Johnny Carey's, Chun, so on and so forth. So I imagine, since Victor was the top commander for his, Bianca will be the roulette hero that will be added after this list. Heroes available in the daily boost will vary depending on each commander's game progress, blah blah blah. So they do make sure you can get to almost every hero, and I'm sure we'll be talking about the other two later. The following heroes will be removed: Martin, Hank, Peter, Cynthia, Raigoro, Tom, Nakano. Again, removing heroes from paywalls. I guess this one's fine because you're removing it from a pay system. That's okay. And we have a buffed hero. And already, seeing that it's Master Jin, this was very much needed. I don't even know what the buffs are entirely, but already I know this is needed because Master Jin being a niche rally commander when he's paid for seems silly. Skill 1, Hometown Nostalgia. The attack and defense boost provided by the skill will increase with the maximum increase from 40 to 45%. Max level effect, attack 45 and 45, attack and defense by 45%, additional rage points from basic attacks last 5 seconds. So it's just from 40 to 45, and you get the 20 rage. So an additional 5%. Nothing to scoff at, nothing broken. Rally capacity boost provided by the skill will increase, with the maximum being increased from 11 to 15. This is really nice. This makes him I don't want to say 4% is huge, but considering the limitations on attacking towers or checkpoints or shelters, adding an additional 4% to that will make a lot of difference, because it's like a damage buff. It's 4% on top of everything. Also increases damage dealt by squad by 11% during siege. That didn't change. Skill 4, Breach of Trust. The boost will now apply under all conditions instead of just during siege. So having the additional 18% attack and defense apply to everything and not just siege is the biggest buff here. Like I said before, Master Jin being locked to just siege instead of being slightly useful in the field was absolutely silly to me. This makes sure that he has a solid stat buff for all of his troops, and then can boost said stat buff by another 45%. I'm sure it'll be higher, and yeah, it does. He does boost his Awaken skill. The attack, it's boosted by from 50% to 55, and still gets his 25 rage points from basic attacks. So yeah, considering there are combinations that you can use with Jin that bring his skill cycle down to about 6 or 7 seconds, that's almost 100% uptime on this. So you can essentially have a 73% buff to squad attack and defense constantly. Do you give up any skill damage from him in the process? Absolutely. But if you can keep his buff stacked on as a secondary commander long enough that it lasts till the primary commander hits again, this is nice. This personally makes Master Jin effective on the field again. You've raised his buffs, you've given him an additional buff that applies to all forms of combat, and so this makes him viable in the field, and the additional 4% makes him even better in rallies. I don't think you could have really done that much more without making him overly viable, if that makes sense. Because, let's be honest, he's not supposed to be better than a troop-specific hero. He's a leader that focuses on siege, and he has the mostly garbage support tree. I say mostly because it has some solid rage generation, but you can still run him as a secondary commander to a strong troop-specific primary commander and do just fine. I imagine even commanders like Bella, Sven, Chun, Lewis could be run fairly well with Jin as a secondary. Oh, I would like to see Lewis Jin with their stacked rage generation in this case, because Lewis does generate his own rage as well, another 25 points when using basic attacks. So all in all, yeah, that's going to make Jin more viable in every area. So I'm excited to see this. I'm curious if they're going to buff anybody else. I'm curious if they're going to nerf anybody. I don't think anyone really needs a nerf right now, but there are definitely some early game heroes that could do with a little buffing if you're going to give access to all of these heroes. Because the stat buffs, just to give you an example, let's take a look at Cynthia's staff buffs. She's a very early game rider commander that can deal just under 8,000 direct damage, but she has about 25% squad attack and can, 15% squad HP. That's about 40% in buffs. But you come down here to Elena, and you get 30% Rider Squad defense, another Rider Squad attack of 20%, on top of 13% damage, 30% basic damage, well, actually 53% basic damage when Rage is above it. The stat buffs alone from higher tier heroes like this are just better than the early game ones. And if you're going to have limitations on, if you're going to remove limitations on which heroes that people can get, I think that the early game heroes need to be buffed. So that picking one over another is a choice of preference of playstyle, more so than one is essentially better than the other. But with that, that's everything I really have to say. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer questions again. Again, apologies for not being around as often as I should have been. I just needed to take a break for a little while. But with that, this is Mr. Brain, your friendly neighborhood gaming dad, signing off.